Okay, morning folks. This is Model Railroading on a Budget Part 7, and I just wanted to give you an update on what I'm working on today. You can see the layout's got a bunch of crap on it, kind of covered up with stuff. Wanted to give you a better shot of those rocks this morning now that the garage door is open. So you can see that coloring has come out pretty well there. Pretty happy with that. This big sheet of cardstock that you see sitting here is going to be sidewalks. What I did is I went down to the local Hobby Lobby and I was looking for a piece of actually artist mat, and they had them in I think it was 16 by 24 for about $4 a piece. But I found this one. It's actually a mat that you use to backup photographs, and this is my, if you can see that very well, that's my concrete paint color from inside my Woodland Scenics kit, and you can see the color match there is pretty good. So what I'm going to do is place this underneath the buildings and then make sidewalks out of that. So it's about, I don't know, probably close to 1/8 of an inch thick, maybe a little bit less than 1/8. So that should pretty well approximate curb height. You know, again, I'm not a rivet counter, so that's close enough for me. The other thing I wanted to show you is this is my backdrop. I'm not sure how well that color is going to come out here, but just a 4x8 sheet of plywood. I've cut it down to 3x7. 7 feet, you'll remember, is the length of my layout. And I've painted it in this light blue color, and this is what I used here. It's another one of those mistake bin finds from Lowe's, $2.50. It's some kind of blue that somebody had mixed up and didn't like the color. The original price on that's like $9.75 a quart. I got it for $2.50. So there again, you know, close enough for me. I think I mentioned before that I had bought those cloud stencils, so I'm going to practice on a piece of the plywood that I cut off. I'll paint it blue, do some cloud stencil practice on that, and then kind of go from there. So just as far as the layout and how it looks this morning, you can see that brown flat paint has dried pretty well. So anyway, just wanted to give you a quick update. I will hopefully have a little bit more later on here today. Maybe show you some of the clouds and hopefully get some of those sidewalks in. I don't know if I mentioned this, and this is kind of, I don't know, maybe inexperience on my part. I had that white styrofoam packing material as the base for my town, and I was going to paint streets on there, and obviously as I started spray painting, why the spray paint just attacked that foam and started to eat it up. So again, you know, on a budget, what I did is I took some 1.5-inch masking tape, laid it side by side, gave me about 3 inches wide of surface there, and I spray painted that masking tape black, and it's got a little bit of a texture to it, so it looks like asphalt. I've left some of the seams in there. I don't know if you can see them in the video, but it looks like, you know, some rough pavement. I'm going to put some stripes on there to indicate road striping, of course. But where you see these places here that are just below and next to the roadways, that's going to be covered by sidewalk and building. Park in the middle, some houses over there. So that's the update for this morning. I'll zoom in on that rock face a little bit up there so you can see how that came out. I'm going to try something different right next to that, in that gray area right there. I'm going to try molding some rocks in place. I've seen that done before, where you pour the plaster in your mold and you let it harden just a little bit, and then before, while it's still wet but not running, you put the mold right on the face of the mountain that you're going to mold it to, and you can kind of bend that mold around the front of what you're molding to. And the theory says that it's supposed to stick, so we'll try that later. And anyway, that's it for now, so I'm going to stop and do a little bit more work, and I will add another part to this video. Okay, just wanted to show you in progress here. That's the first section of that matting, which I've cut and laid down. It's going to lay about 1/4 of an inch on top of the street there, so you can see how that's going to look. Obviously I can make that look like a sidewalk with some expansion joints in it afterwards, but it turned out pretty well. Just used a regular old razor knife to cut that, and obviously what's not sidewalk I'll paint different colors and obviously cover with foliage. But anyway, just wanted to give you a look at how the in progress section looks. I'm going to go ahead and cut the piece for over here now, and we will see how that looks. So I've got this piece obviously where the building is. I've got this section right here in front of the camera, and then I've got another section over there on the other side of the street. I left it a little bit short of the edge of the town section here. Obviously I can go ahead and cover that with foliage, maybe put a fence up around here. I did find some retaining walls that I'm probably going to use along the edge here. Some cut stone retaining wall, which I think will look good here. I can put those in, fill behind them with some earth, so it should look pretty good. I'm going to use that around the sides. So I'll be back. Alright, here's a shot from the other side of the layout. There's sidewalk number 2. Areas down. Maybe a little long. I'm going to have to trim that one slightly, but looking pretty good. So I'll get this one done over here and we'll come back. Alright, a little bit of detail work here. I've trimmed this sidewalk down, and you can see now it has a rounded curb edge. Same down there at the intersection. Rounded curbs. Back up a little bit. So there we go. That section of sidewalk that you see to the left of that building, I'm going to make that a parking lot. So you know, we'll do some striping in there and see how that turns out. But first 2 done, I want to do this section over here next. Okay, so sidewalk number 3 is in place. You know, they say everything you need to know you learned in kindergarten, and that's how to cut straight and how to cut a circle. 2 things I needed to do here. The edges on those curbs at the corners, where they're rounded, I just took one of those little Woodland Scenics paint bottles and traced around the edge of that. Looked like a pretty good radius to use for those curb corners. So that's done. Got the sidewalks in place. Over here in this big blank section, I've got some other industrial buildings like a repair shop, auto repair shop, and a few things like that. So I'm probably just going to make this a gravel parking lot area, and the same with over here. So don't need any sidewalks in that area. Besides, it's going to be close to the entrance to this bridge, which I'm going to bring out here. Bridge these 3 tracks, bridge my ravine, connect with my street. So so far so good. I'm going to try a little testing on the clouds, so I will try and show that to you, show you what it looks like, and be back shortly. Okay, just wanted to give you a look at what these cloud stencils are like. You can see they've got some edges here. This is a complete cloud here that you can use. These others are, again, just the edges, and the technique is that you spray white paint on this blue background, making it very heavy along the edges of the stencil, and then you back up and spray towards the base of the cloud, lightening it up as you go. So the clouds end up with defined edges and then fade into the backdrop as you come away from the edge of the stencil. So I'm going to give this a shot on a little test board that I've got painted up over here. So I'm going to try that, and I will come back and show you the result. Okay, so test clouds. I think they look pretty cool. Just used, what I did there was just sort of took all of the stencils that I had and hit the edges pretty heavily and then backed off a little bit coming away. When I do the real backdrop here, I'll obviously fill in some of the bodies of the clouds a little bit heavier, but just wanted to give you a look at how that works. That's pretty slick. So maybe we'll get the big backdrop done here. The backdrop that I've got is a little bit warped, as you can see here on the edge. So I've got some plastic, some PVC pipe, or not pipe actually, but PVC strips, about 3/4 by 1. So I may screw those to the back of this thing to try and straighten it up a little bit. So I will let you know how that works, and be back in a minute. Alright, so here we have the backdrop in place with the clouds. So it came out pretty good, I think. I've got some screws in there right now. I don't know if you can see those. I may have to actually replace those with maybe some flathead screws and then put some putty over the top so you can't see them. They're a little bit evident in person, but may not show up on the video. Let me show you what I used to hold that up there. Walk back around behind the layout here without killing myself. What I've got, you see these 4 plastic vertical strips here, were actually from some Venetian blinds, leftover pieces. They're exactly 3 feet long, which is the height of my backdrop. So I attached those with 3-inch drywall screws through the 2x4s at the bottom. And then at the top, to hold them in place, I've got some screws coming through the backdrop. Hard to see, but I painted them white, tried to blend them into the clouds, but I may have to do some reinforcement here on the structure with maybe some 1x2, but right now looking pretty good. So don't know what else I'm going to do. Maybe I'll do a little building assembly here. I got to clean up the garage before I start anything else, though. I've kind of got stuff everywhere, but give you one more shot of that backdrop. Came out pretty well, I think. Clouds look good. Hopefully you can see it here in the daylight. Do have the garage door open, so looks pretty good, I think. But anyway, that may be it for the day. I don't know. I'm going to try and mold that one rock in place over there, but I'm going to do a little cleanup first, and we'll try that later. So if I don't see you any more today, we'll sign off. Alright, so I'm not sure how this is going to work, but I've got the rock mold on the face of that mountain. It's got the plaster of Paris behind it, and we're casting a rock in place. So we'll see how this turns out. Wish me luck. Okay, so much for casting a rock in place. You can see what happened. I may not have just walk around the back side here. I may have actually not had that plaster wet enough when I was casting it, and I apparently also didn't have the hill wet enough either. So you can see I've got rocks all over the place as to in place. So I'm going to clean this up, and we'll try something else. So anyway, hey, you never know unless you try, right? Okay, well, I think that's it for today. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. But appreciate your watching, and stay tuned. Probably won't have any updates this week. I'm going to be pretty busy at work, so stay tuned.